Hi, I'm Raylene, and welcome to Khaleesi Clues. This video may contain spoilers for those who are not familiar with the current and past HBO series House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, along with the fact that I may refer to any of the books by George R.R. Martin that pertain to his A Song of Ice and Fire storyline. This video is the continuation for the Clues from the House of the Dragon series, Episode 6, titled The Princess and the Queen. I have to warn you, what I find in the clues will be different from what you find, because we all see and interpret things differently. I will also be introducing more pieces of a theory that I have been working on for the past couple of years, so some of the clues that I find in the new series may help confirm some of my past video predictions that I have made. Picking up from where I left off, which is just after Aemond has run out of the dragon pit and has now been taken to his mother Alicent, who is currently talking with Helena. As everyone has mentioned, Helena is definitely like her father Viserys and has the gift of visions or prophetic dreams. Helena's cryptic words as she lets a black millipede run through her hands are, "This one has 60 rings and 2 pairs of legs on each." That's 240. It has eyes, though I don't believe it can see. This conversation is then interrupted by Aemond, and Alicent is forced to reprimand him regarding his obsession with the dragons. So the first clue, we have the black millipede that she is holding in her hands. I think the black color of the millipede is referring to the Targaryen family colors chosen for this part of the story, whereas the Hightowers would be represented by the color green. As you can see, she is safely letting it crawl through her hands. Although it is creepy looking, the millipede is non-venomous, unlike the similar-looking centipede, which has poisonous fangs. Since we are talking about similarities, the black millipede wiggling through her fingers also reminds me of a worm. The archaic definition for the word worm can also mean dragon. So the black millipede may be symbolic of a large black worm or a large black dragon. When I think of a large black dragon, Balerion comes to mind, and the possibility that these visions she is having may reflect a bit on Aegon the Conqueror and his conquest of Westeros. The name millipede derives from Latin meaning 1,000 feet, or you could even think of it as 1,000 legs. This particular breed that is shown does not have 1,000 feet or legs, but it may be referring to or symbolizing a long distance or period of time. The show writers may be using this particular bug as symbolism that Helena's current visions may reflect on events that have occurred a very long time ago in history, or possibly a length of time in the future. She refers to this millipede as having 60 rings with 2 pairs of legs on each. I believe this may be reflecting on the very first episode when we heard the narrator say, King Jaehaerys reigned for nearly 60 years of peace and prosperity, but tragedy had claimed both his sons. The word ring sounds very similar to the word reign, and in Latin, reign is related to the word crown. So 60 rings can be a symbol of the 60 years of reign with peace and prosperity mentioned for the old king. This could be seen as a 60-year length of time reference. The 2 pairs of legs could be symbolic of his 2 sons and heirs who had died, leaving his succession in doubt. The word legs can also be defined as an object used for support, or even just symbolism of overall support. An informal definition of the word legs says it is used to refer to the sustained popularity or success of a product or idea, or, in this case, possibly the success of a ruling party. Helena then mentions the number 240, referencing the amount of legs on the millipede. I think this line may also be referring to a length or period of time. If so, then it may be possible that it's referring to the amount of 240 years. Now, if we add both periods of time referenced, which is 60 and 240, that will give us the number 300. So what I'm wondering is if this millipede talk is hinting to the 300 years reign of the blood of the dragon, starting with Aegon the Conqueror and ending with Robert Baratheon. The next lines, "It has eyes, though I don't believe it can see." This one can refer to a couple of things. The fact that King Viserys likes to avoid conflict and chooses not to acknowledge certain issues is definitely a possibility. I think it could also apply to King Robert Baratheon in the same way, as he was blind to the fact that his children with Queen Cersei were actually fathered by her brother, Sir Jaime Lannister. I would also like to think that King Robert may possibly have had the gift of foresight, but that he was unaware of his abilities. My reason for thinking this is because of his discussion with Ned Stark while on their way back to King's Landing. King Robert had received a message regarding the wedding of Daenerys Targaryen and Khal Drogo. His statement that followed was that a war was coming. Robert didn't know when or who they would be fighting, but that it was coming. At that particular time, it was foreshadowing the future return from across the sea of Daenerys with her and the Dothraki and Unsullied soldiers. What I believe is that he was actually seeing the real war that is still in store for mankind. I'm not talking about the war with the Night King and the army of the dead. I'm referring to the Great War, or as referenced in the books, the Red War, where they will be facing an even larger invasion by land and sea. Like Missandei warned in Season 6 of Game of Thrones, the Masters are coming for their property, and the show gave us a glimpse of the fleet of ships coming in by the sea with their ghostly white sails. Getting back to Helena, this last particular line, "It has eyes, though I don't believe it can see." It reminded me of an old riddle. What has eyes but cannot see? Now, if you want to think about that answer before I say it, you can pause the video here. The answer is needle. That word may sound familiar to you because Arya Stark has a sword named Needle. Now, you may be wondering how that ties into the story, so here I go again with my symbolism and clues. Would you believe me if I told you that Arya's sword Needle is actually used as symbolism for a baby in some parts of the books? Why do I suddenly feel like Lucille Ball with a whole lot of explaining to do? It's because I really do. I have a ton of explaining to do, and it all comes down to my overall theory that is coming out in pieces with clues from the current show. That final line, I think Helena Targaryen is actually seeing the coming birth of another very important child, possibly a prophesied princess that was promised. If so, that would be mirroring how Aegon the Conqueror and King Viserys dreamed of the prince that was promised, which is the birth of Jon Snow. It may be that Helena is having prophetic dreams or visions of the birth of a child from Sansa Stark. I have covered part of this theory in an older video titled Sansa Stark, The Pack Survives. It's a long video, and it's kind of weird because it was based off a dream that I had had for Sansa Stark that never came true during the Game of Thrones series. It has some crazy similarities to what we saw for the fate of Aemma Targaryen in the first episode of the House of the Dragon. And an overall breakdown is that I believe Sansa will die after giving birth to a baby, mirroring the death of her Aunt Lyanna after giving birth to Jon Snow. The possibility of Arya having to use Needle or even the cat's paw dagger in order to assist in the delivery of her child is also part of my prediction. I did not realize at the time when I recorded that video how Arya's sword needle was symbolic of Sansa's future baby. I plan on doing another video where I can expand on those clues. Helena looks very uncomfortable when Alicent touches her, and their conversation is interrupted by the entry of Aemond. Helena gives us another cryptic line where she states, "The last ring has no legs at all." If the word ring is some symbolism of reign or for a period of time, it may be referring to the fact that the 300-year period of time for the blood of the dragons ended with the rulers not having legs or no dragons at all. If Helena is possibly picking up on the future birth of Sansa's baby, maybe she is also picking up on the vision of the future king, Brandon Stark, who is paralyzed. It makes me wonder if Helena is seeing visions of importance for the other side of this future great war to come. Helena is one of those characters that is like a flip of the coin. She has a Targaryen father and a Hightower mother, a combination of black and green. Which side will she land on? Her abilities as a dreamer, due to her Targaryen father's genes, makes her a huge threat and can be used as a weapon to the opposing side. I thought the contrast of dress colors displayed during that scene, combined with her reaction to Alicent's touch, may have been a clue that she is more like her father's side than her mother's. If that is the case, Helena's life could be in danger. Next it shows Alicent talking to King Viserys, and we hear them both tossing the word child around, referring to Aemond, Jacaerys, and Lucerys. Keep in mind, all of them are of course children when we are referring to their ages. But I also think that this particular use of the word child is being used in reference to the children of the forest and their connection to the corruption or even possibly the bloodline of the kids. If you want more information about the children of the forest, you can watch my video titled Devils in Disguise. King Viserys questions if Aegon is possibly the one behind the "when pigs fly" symbolism prank against Aemond. Next, a frustrated Queen Alicent is venting to Sir Criston Cole. He makes a statement about Princess Rhaenyra calling her a spider who stings and sucks her prey dry. That's a very interesting line, and I'm going to circle back to it because it ties into something later on in the episode. This line also ties in with the deterioration of King Viserys' health. That corruption is slowly killing him. One thing I want to ask: does anyone else think that Queen Alicent and Criston are sleeping together? In the beginning, I questioned if Alicent was possibly in love with Daemon Targaryen. With her strange, obsessive behavior after hearing about the possibility of Daemon and Rhaenyra sleeping together, combined with what seemed as if it was a confession of her own experience as a teen when questioning Sir Criston of his knowledge about that scandalous night, it made me suspect that she probably lost her maidenhead to Daemon when she was younger. She may have even continued to sleep with Daemon while she was married to the king. I think that is why she flipped out so bad and went code green on Rhaenyra when she thought that they had had sex. When she found out that Rhaenyra lied to her and Criston confessed that he had sex with the princess, I think Alicent then thought Rhaenyra lied to her about Daemon too, possibly assuming that the princess slept with both of the men. I also think that is why Alicent is now having an affair with Criston. It's like a tit-for-tat move. You took my man, so I'll take yours type of mentality. Either that, or maybe the possibility that she was in love with Rhaenyra, and hearing that she slept with anyone made her go code green. At this point, I won't rule out either idea. I have to say, it did seem as if Alicent was waiting up for a secret visitor to come walking through a secret passage the night that Daemon snuck Rhaenyra out for a night on the town. If she was having an affair all of those years with Daemon, who's to say that some, or even all of her kids are not King Viserys, but actually from Daemon? She does have a son named Aemond, who looks and acts just like him. And the funny part would be that all of them would be bastards too. Plus, think of what is in store for the future fate for Daemon and Aemond. King Viserys also just referred to Rhaenyra as his only child during episode 8. Next is the window scene where Aegon is standing on the ledge, pleasuring himself. Totally reminded me of Tyrion's statement to Jaime and Cersei about how he was going to travel to the wall where he could stand on top of the world and piss off the edge. Which later, we do see Tyrion fulfill that wish. There are a few similarities between Tyrion and Aegon. Both enjoy drinking and definitely love women. Both are found passed out in strange places due to the excess of drinking too much alcohol, with more similarities to come as the series will show. Alicent walks in and asks if he was responsible for the prank, and we get the confirmation from Aegon that it was really Jace and Lucerys' idea. Again, those little cuties may not be as angelic as they appear, but only time will tell. When it comes to George R.R. Martin, I cannot help but suspect a twist is coming for any character at any time, just waiting to rip our hearts out. The next scene for the episode is actually with Daemon and Helena flying on their dragons. I'm actually going to skip that scene and group it with another video that I will discuss more Daemon or demon clues for this episode. The scene we see after that is when all of the children are training their sword skills in the yard. King Viserys comments to Lionel Strong, "This is the stuff, Lionel. Lads that learn together, train together, knock each other down, pick each other up, will certainly form a lifelong bond, wouldn't you agree?" In which he answers, "That is the hope, Your Grace." Sounds like such a sweet dream, hoping that they will have a great united future ahead for the children. Yes, it absolutely sounds great, but I can't help but suspect those lines are referring to not only the story we are watching unfold on the screen for our entertainment, but that they also may be cryptic clues to a bigger story. A story that is happening off-screen, that is only hinted to with particular words and symbols. Once again, I feel as if these lines are referring to the children of the forest. Like I have previously mentioned in my video titled Devils in Disguise, I believe the children of the forest are part of the true enemy in this story. They are not what they seem to be. It's hard to believe, and it makes it hard to even explain, but the children of the forest have found a way to cloak themselves so that they can go undetected. That means they can set things in motion for the ultimate endgame, and no one would ever even know the difference. King Viserys, he's clueless to any of this. He is honestly hoping for the best for the kids below. It's Lionel's line, the one that says, "That is the hope, Your Grace." That's the one that triggers me, because what I believe he's referring to is the forming a lifelong bond for the children. Let me take you back to the very first book of the series, Game of Thrones. In chapter 32, Arya overhears a conversation between Varys and Illyrio Mopatis. Illyrio states that he needs more gold and 50 birds. The birds I believe he is referring to are actually children, not the messenger ravens that we see them use. We are talking about Varys' little spy birds, the little special children that he uses for his despicable deeds. The exact words from the book, as the conversation fades in and out, are as follows. So many? The ones you need are hard to find. So young to know their letters. Perhaps older? Not die so easy. No, the younger are safer. Treat them gently. If they kept their tongues, the risk. This is a horrible thought, but I believe the children of the forest are using defenseless human children, or even babies, as possible hosts. They are experimenting on humans, and especially the vulnerable human children. A grown, healthy adult can fight the intrusion of a warg trying to take over their body. But what about the weak? As we see that Bran is capable of taking over Odor's body because his mind has been impaired as a child. What could a small, defenseless child or even a newborn baby do to fight off an attack like that? That lifelong bond that Lionel is hoping for is possibly whatever experiment they are doing to these poor children, that the warg or possible parasitic seed that is implanted in them will succeed forming a lifelong bond until it is grown and consumes the human body. That the unborn child of the forest will now be strong enough to survive and thrive, eventually wiping out all of humanity. Like I said, the children of the forest are dragonkin. They are dangerous, stunted dragons, and humans are the sheep. Now this scene comes to an end with Sir Harwin Strong absolutely losing his mind in a rage and beating on Sir Criston Cole, who does nothing to fight back. I think this whole scene was completely staged. Harwin knew he was provoking Criston by pointing out how he was favoring Aegon and Aemond during the training sessions. Harwin's job in King's Landing is done for now. Rhaenyra has now had her third child by him, and he very well may have snuck a dragon egg out of the dragon pit. It is time for him to make an exit from King's Landing. I hate to say it because I really like Harwin. I think Lionel, Harwin, and Larys Strong are all corrupt. I think they are working for the other side and that they play their roles very well. Next, we see a very public scene of Harwin and his father Lionel arguing. That is a very dangerous argument they are having in a very open place. They are not whispering behind doors. They are screaming in an open hallway. Anyone could overhear that conversation. And it just so happens that Princess Rhaenyra hears them in the shadows. What they are saying is the truth, and she knows it. But like they say, every great lie has a little bit of truth to it. I'm going to finish this video by covering the remaining scenes left in the episode that pertain to Harwin, rather than skip back and forth between the different characters. Lord Lionel Strong tries to resign from his position as Hand, but is refused by King Viserys. Lionel then asks if he can escort Harwin back to Harrenhal, as he is his future heir. This request seems strange to me. Harwin is a full-grown man and is supposed to be the strongest man in the Seven Kingdoms. I'm not exactly sure why he would feel the need to escort him back to Harrenhal. To me, it seems more like an attempt to disguise their exit from King's Landing without raising suspicions. Like I questioned, did Harwin take an egg from the dragon pit? Next, we have Alicent meeting with Larys Strong. In this meeting, it seems as if Larys is betraying his family by talking so openly about his brother's transgressions with Princess Rhaenyra. I'm not buying it, because I think they are all three working together to get a job done. The Queen is desperate for someone to take her side. Clever Larys plays it off as if he is getting a hero cut out for the job by visiting the prison cells. There's a couple of things from this small scene that I think were quite interesting. The first clue is that Larys said he is prepared to offer the men mercy, as long as they are willing to pay a price. The word mercy reminds me of Arya Stark's training at the House of Black and White to become a faceless man, and later becomes one of her names that she assumes. As I mentioned in my Devils in Disguise video, I believe the faceless men, the House of Black and White, along with Braavos and its ships, are all tied in with the Children of the Forest. The second clue is the price Larys expects the men to pay. That price just happens to be having the men's tongues cut out. Well, that's interesting, because didn't I just mention a conversation between Varys and Illyrio regarding that same subject? Third clue, I think, is a big one. Did anyone else take a second look at these men that Larys chose? I sure did, because at first I thought that Harwin had been thrown in jail. Then I realized it was just someone who looked similar to him. I had no clue what was coming later in the episode, but I'll come back to this thought in a bit. Next, we have Harwin saying goodbye to Princess Rhaenyra and the boys. I really hate to see Harwin go, and I especially hate it if I'm right and Harwin is bad. His words to them: I will return, I promise. I will be a stranger when we meet again. Haunting words, if you ask me. The last scene for Harwin brings us to the arrival at Harrenhal. Larys's men have arrived, and they are wearing his firefly pendant. The fire scene is tough, as we see a panicked Harwin pounding on the doors while his father is on the other side trying to break the door in order to save his son. We are hearing Larys talk as we see a rat crawl across the mantle. One definition for a rat is to betray, desert, or inform on one's associates. This could also be referring to the fact that Varys, prior to working in King's Landing, referred to his little spy network as his little mice, and later changing it to his little birds. Rats and mice are vermin and thrive in dark places, just like the Children of the Forest. We see a body being carried out with a bloody burned hand hanging down. I'm assuming that this is supposed to be the body of Lionel that they are carrying. And again, the bloody hand is a clue that links the weirwood leaves that look like bloody hands. Just another clue of this linking to the Children of the Forest. We see Larys's 3 men disappear into what appears to be a secret passageway inside Harrenhal. Well, I'm just going to have to add in here that I think we just witnessed another body swap in this episode. I think that's why the showrunners chose someone who looks so similar to Harwin to play that part. I think it was a deliberate clue because they look really similar, especially when the hood of the cloak is up. That fire was their exit to the story here. It also makes me wonder if they did have a dragon's egg, was the fire set and the sacrifice of the father Lionel Strong and the son Harwin Strong all done to try and hatch the egg? Let me explain a little better, if I can, about the body swap, because I know it's confusing. Partially because I'm not exactly sure what or how they are able to do what they are doing, but I know they are doing something similar to what the Faceless Men do, or a warg type situation where they inhabit the body of a person, taking control over them like we see Bran do to Hodor. So basically what I'm thinking is at the time that we are watching the fire engulf both Harwin and Lionel, whatever was in them before has already left and jumped into another person's body or identity. like they would be capable of living forever because they just continue to move from person to person. It then shows Larys talking to Alicent, and to me, he looks like a gargoyle. The way that he is sitting along the bench, I don't know why, but that was the image that came to me when I watched this part. Larys pulls a Varys card by telling the queen that he is just a servant of the realm. Larys the spider has now caught the queen in his web of lies by implying that he did it all for her, as if he just fulfilled her wishes. These are the real spiders that old Nan from Winterfell referred to in her scary bedtime stories. The last thing I want to talk about for this video is the firefly pendant that Larys uses on his cane and men. First off, is the color representation again is gold and black, which is colors that I believe represent the children of the forest and the great other side. The HBO information confirms Larys' symbol is a firefly, but I seriously thought it was a scarab the first time that I saw it. I'm sure that they are playing a bit off of the looks from the scarab, but that's just my opinion. The firefly that is on Larys' cane is kind of embedded as if it is sitting on a leaf type design with some type of sap or fluid spilling down. Fireflies are also known as lightning bugs and glowworms. And I found some interesting facts about fireflies that I wanted to share. Similar to the scarab, fireflies are actually flying beetles. This may be why there is such a similarity in the way both Larys' design and the scarab appear. Fireflies produce a cold light with no infrared or ultraviolet frequencies. The light may be yellow, green, or pale red. One species, known as the blue ghost, will appear like a bluish-white light from afar and in dim lighting, but it is actually bright green when seen up close. This sounds like a cloaked firefly pretending to be one color when it is actually another. This also makes me think of their blue blood and how I believe they are cold-blooded, and they may refer to them as the cold ones or possibly the ice dragons. I have even seen parts in the books where the term winter snows is actually referring to these cold bastards. Some female fireflies will trick smaller males with their flashing light so that they can trap them as prey. This tells me that these pretty little lightning bugs can be very dangerous. A few days after mating, a female lays her eggs on or just below the surface of the ground. After they hatch, the larvae begin to feed. Most species are specialized predators and feed on other larvae. Some are so specialized that they have grooved mandibles that deliver digestive fluids directly to their prey. This is a big connection to the children of the forest. I may not know exactly what type of experiment they are doing to humans, but I believe it is something relatively close to this description. It reminds me of the story of Princess Arya Targaryen, who disappeared from Dragonstone on the back of Balerion, only to be returned over a year later, emaciated, and her body was full of worms with human faces. They did this to her, the children of the forest. They sent her back as a message, as a warning, and as a mockery of the future mother of dragons, Daenerys Targaryen. I believe they are also using something like this on King Viserys. This type of poison, like a digestive fluid, breaking him down from the inside, creating open wounds that refuse to heal. Corruption of all types that they continue to do to different important people throughout history. I could go on forever about this story. This episode contains so many clues, and I still have not completely covered the entire episode. I really hope that some of you will enjoy all of the detail of so many possible clues that I find. I have to explain my theory as I go because otherwise these clues seem like they are nothing. Hopefully my videos are adding ideas to the story that you have not thought of or heard of before. Like I said, we all interpret everything differently. I have so much more to explain. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. If there is something about the story that you love hearing about or that drives you nuts trying to figure out, leave it in the comments. I probably have some crazy idea that I can add. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.